Hey guys, welcome back to another installment of me responding to your Bleach hot takes. And just like before, these were some patron submitted questions that have been examined by my friend to make sure that they don't have anything that I can't see. Um, yeah, I'm excited to see them. We are going to open up future hot takes. Patron ones will always be for sure answered. They're guaranteed to be answered at some point in these videos. I will open it up. I'll send out a post at some point for hot takes from subscribers on YouTube, um, and yeah, we'll try to answer some of those as well. But yeah, they're not guaranteed like the Patreon ones. So if you want to make sure your question gets answered, you can join the Patreon. But otherwise, just submit one, and I'm sure eventually I'll get around to like all of them anyway. But yeah, the Patreon ones get priority. But yeah, I just want to see what a lot of people have to say now that I'm at the end of the series. It's fun to kind of see what opinions are. It's fun to kind of gauge how people feel more. I don't have to be quite as, you know, cautious soon, so that'll be cool. But yeah, let's do this. Witch Hunter says, the powerful reveals in the Thousand Year Blood War were good, but some could have been used in the fake Karakura Town saga. Shinsui's Bankai Unohana fighting don't reveal that she's a Kenpachi though. This leads to a lot of moments feeling like the fight against the Espada should have all been on the level of Ichigo versus Ukiura, but wasn't. The feeling after revisiting the arc is that everybody is fighting while wearing bubble wrap. That's interesting. So you're saying the Arrancar fights with Aizen felt like everyone was wearing bubble wrap, and some of those big reveals should have happened then? I like the idea of revealing Unohana is capable of fighting, like, really well. That was always kind of hinted at. I talked about that in the analysis videos. There were always little moments that people were, like, afraid of her. And I always thought, by the nature of what her character was, I'm like, oh, she's like a doctor. Maybe she knows how to really, like, hurt people and what parts of the body or the soul to attack. I would have liked that. I would have liked to have seen a full-on hint of who she'll end up being. It would have been cool to see her fight a bit more, too. Even if it was just like she like takes out 3 Arrancars with just like one quick swipe of her sword, and it's just like, whoa. Shinsui's Bankai, you wanted to see it so while he's fighting Stark? Yeah, I mean that could have been, and he thought about it, or was it Ukitake? One of them thought about it, but there was too many people around. But I would have enjoyed that while he fought Stark, and it would have made that feel even more of a tense, like a tense battle. I could have seen that, honestly. I don't disagree. I think some of those would have been interesting. As far as everyone wearing bubble wrap, looking back on it, I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far, but a lot of people, it feels like, we know they're holding back because they had Bankai they didn't use. Okay, so you also say there are too many characters. I genuinely think we need half of the Vizards. Espada were okay, but powers felt nerfed for the plot. Thousand Year Blood War kind of solved it by having more characters that got killed off, but the powers had to be weird and unique. By the end of the manga, there wasn't a way to adequately explore everyone's role in the fight without some people being off-screen, like Harabel. Yeah, Harabel in the Thousand Year Blood War has just been locked away. We saw a little bit more of her in the anime. Too many characters. Half the Vizards. Here's my thing. I agree as far as there's so many that most of them, not most, but a lot of them don't really get anything to do. I'm thinking about like characters like Love. Lisa is a little bit... I can understand that perspective of like, if we eliminated half these people, then there'd be, there wouldn't be characters that aren't getting anything. We could even have more time to give the characters we keep more stuff, but I also kind of like that this world's so expansive. It's so large. There's so many characters that not all of them are going to contribute to this story, but the fact they exist just kind of shows that this is like a larger world with more going on, and they play little roles, but I don't know. I think it kind of adds to the world building that there are so many characters, and not all of them are serviced. You're right. But I also feel like, it's Ichigo's story. And if they're not hugely important to that, or you could give them stuff, sure. You could give Love a big fight, but like, I don't know. I feel like I can see your point, and while I'd love for a lot of these characters to get more, I'd love to see Hachi in particular as far as the visors. I'm talking broadly, but we'll stick with the visors thing. I would have loved to see Hachi have big moments in the Thousand Year Blood War because I loved him in the Ironclar arc, but it just, unfortunately, yeah, sometimes there just isn't enough space. And while that's kind of a downer, I also don't think I'd want to get rid of anyone. I think Kubo created them for his world building. He put them there for a reason, and while they're not always plot reasons, aesthetically, world building wise, I wouldn't want to eliminate them. I don't think there are too many. I just think we could just make the manga longer to accommodate them. But I honestly think it's fine to have them not always get everything, that we don't have to see all of them have a moment. I'd love for a lot of them too, but mainly the real big ones. Everyone else, it's like, if they do, great. If not, that's okay. I'm thinking about, these minor characters you only see in like the background when they're like huge casts of characters. My mind is just going to Kit Fisto from Star Wars, who I love. And if you only watch the movies, I mean, I loved him as a kid even just from episode 2, but all he does in the movies is he force pushes C-3PO down in the arena and smiles. And then he gets murdered by Palpatine. But I'll note, he gets murdered. He lasts about 2 seconds longer than the other 2 guys that got murdered next to him. So he holds out a little longer. But like, I love Kit Fisto, and he got expanded on in like Clone Wars and comics and novels, but just from those movies, I liked his vibe, I liked his aesthetic, I loved his design, and he was just another cool Jedi to have that in the background. And he's a character, but he's not important to the main plot. But I don't know. I like the universe being that expansive, and yeah, I can see your point though. I disagree personally. I wouldn't want to get rid of anyone. Renshiro Zaraki has 2 hot takes. 1, most of the Soul Reapers, even high-level ones, never demonstrate high levels of expertise at swordsmanship despite being shown taking classes in the academy. That's true, we do see them take classes. Perhaps because most Shikai are odd shapes and most Bankai have large effects, we rarely see 2 characters fighting each other with proper form and stances. I agree for the most part. I do like when swords really clash sometimes. But you're right. It's often not the main part of the fight because of, like you said, Shikai and Bankai sometimes take weird forms. like I just thought of Mayuri. When your Bankai turns into a giant baby caterpillar trying to poison you, it's hard to sword fight. I agree. I think I would have loved to have seen more sword on sword, like more finesse, more proper stances, like a proper sword duel. Because swords are so important to the series, but it's like they're more than swords. But I'm a big sword fight guy. I love Princess Bride, Mask of Zorro, all the lightsaber fights in Star Wars, Hook. Like, I love sword fights, so I would have loved that. I agree for the most part. Number 2, Uryu, despite not having his focused arc until Thousand Year Blood War, is a more competent character than Sasuke Uchiha. Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Both have a similar story of the main character's best friend/teammate who joins an enemy to avenge the massacre of their people. You know what? You're right. I don't think about Sasuke much, but you're right. However, while Uryu in Thousand Year Blood War acted with a plan and had a consistent end goal, Sasuke constantly made huge decisions based off incomplete information that he did. Very incomplete information. And his motivations, allegiances flipped many times as a result. That's very true. I read and watched Naruto for a long time. I always enjoyed it. It was never one of like my top echelon series. Sasuke was a character... I don't want to say I struggled with Sasuke. I never really loved him. My favorite period of Sasuke Uchiha was when he first gathered his little gang of Orochimaru experiments. I forget what they were called. They had 2 names, but they were like the offshoot of the Akatsuki. but they were going after Itachi. It was like one of them meant like Hawk, right? It's been a long time. I haven't thought too much about Naruto that much in a while. Um, so more competent than Sasuke. I mean, yeah, I mean he had a very specific goal. I'm talking about Uryu. Um, and he stuck to it. And like he made it seem like it was one thing, but it was actually always that. Like he once he found out about Yuabaha killing his parent, his mom, or being involved in that, then it was always about that. And even before that, you could make the argument Uryu's character since early on has been about protecting his friends, even if it meant going against the Quincy, and that carried on. Even when it seemed like he didn't feel that way anymore, he still did. So, compared to Sasuke, who went after Itachi, spoilers for Naruto for the next like 10 seconds probably, he went after Itachi for a long time. He wanted to get strong enough to go after Itachi. He betrayed his friends, but it was all to go after Itachi. He got Orochimaru training. He went after Itachi. Once he got to Itachi, he learned the truth. Then he shifted his allegiance to want to go after, well, I'm trying to remember, the clan, right? Or Madara? Who was he going after in the war? It's been so long. Was he going after Madara at first? Or Obito? I think, right? But then he switches and wants to destroy the village. But then at the very end, he's like a good guy again. Don't remember it that clearly, but I'm gonna agree with you. Uryu is more competent than Sasuke. Plus, I was never the biggest Sasuke guy. I loved Kakashi. I loved Shikamaru. I loved Orochimaru as a villain for the first half before he kind of... yeah, I wasn't ever the biggest Sasuke guy. I liked Itachi way more. And I know Itachi's kind of an easy answer because he's like a lot of people's favorite, but he was up there for me too. I was never huge on Sasuke. When it comes to like bad boy kind of characters like that, like the edgy kind of, I'm more of a Hiei person than a Vegeta or a Sasuke guy. But alright. Sorry, Naruto fans, and sorry anyone that doesn't watch or read Naruto who's like, what are you even talking about? It's been a while. I gotta brush up on my Naruto. Go back and... You know who else I liked was Hidan as a villain. I liked the zombie duo, and I thought they got underused. Hidan and, what was his name? Oh my gosh. The heart guy. Kukaku? Something like that? It's been forever. Anyway. Hey, that one Hokage. Very Naruto today, guys. I always thought it was crazy how laissez-faire the Soul Society is with captain-level people running away from the Soul Society. Like, you had 8 holified Captain Lieutenant Soul Reapers just up and vanished, so the Visored. 3 captains escaped to the human world in the middle of a trial. So that was what, Urahara, Yoruichi, and Tessai? And one just never came back. And you're telling me the Soul Society couldn't find at least one of them, especially since they have Mayuri? I get that Urahara probably helped, but considering what we know from the one-shot a few years ago, they should have been looking harder. You know, I don't disagree. I've thought about this when it comes to, like, Isshin. You would think they would have found him. You know? You would think. Or they would know more about him, where he's at, and what he's doing, and who his son is, and who he's the father of. And yeah, the Visored, you know, they all went into hiding in the same town, unless, you know, they were traveling before that. I've thought about that a lot. And yeah, I do think it's kind of weird that we don't see like search parties, you know, we don't see like flashbacks of like them being in hiding. I think that would have helped, but yeah, no, I agree. It is kind of weird that they're so casually, like, these are really powerful Soul Reapers, and they just kind of let them go off. Lord Mail says, Aizen never wanted to kill most of the Soul Reapers. He only wanted to change the system. He consistently left people alive. That's true. The only people he ever wanted to kill were Momo and Tozen out of his personal idea of compassion, and when he told Yama, I will not let you live because you embody the history of the Soul Society. Everyone else, even the captains he defeated, he spared them and said, stay there, helpless and defeated, and observe calmly as this battle reaches its conclusion. Over and over, you see him giving his warnings to people multiple times before he takes action, like with Renji, or not killing Harabel, etc. I don't say this to say he cared about people's lives, just that he wasn't explicitly going to kill people unless they were in the way of his goals. All of this made the deaths and Thousand-Year Blood War even more meaningful when now you have the contrast of a villain who is truly out for blood. People see the no deaths in the Arrancar arc as a negative for the arc, but in my opinion it's a narrative strength for the arc when in context of the whole story. So Aizen intentionally left people alive. He didn't kill most people. I mean, that's kind of inarguable. He did leave a lot of people alive, like people you think he killed. Like, I thought Momo was dead in the Soul Society arc. She was alive. I thought Harabel got killed. She was alive. Didn't he kill Tozen? Did we mention that? You might have mentioned that. You did mention that. Yeah, he's Mercy, supposedly, so. He meant to kill Momo, but yeah, then Unohana showed up. I mean, yeah, he spares a lot of people. But I mean, a lot of his actions... Could he have anticipated the fights that these Soul Reapers got into? Like, did he know they would survive some of them? Because he orchestrated a lot of things, too. That's an interesting thing to think about. It was never about killing Soul Reapers for him. I agree with that. It was about changing the system. He wanted to go find the Soul King. I mean, yeah. That's an interesting idea that I never really took note of, is that he may have intentionally spared all these people. It's interesting. And like you're saying, does that make the Arrancar arc? I never had that much of an issue with people surviving, because that really only became a thing with me during the Thousand-Year Blood War because of the Blood War being the final arc and being presented as this massive war, and like these characters being put in situations where they looked super dead. But the Arrancar arc also had plenty of people look like they were in mortally wounded situations, like Iori. Does that make the Arrancar arc a positive that people don't die? Is because it's telling us where Aizen's headspace is at. I like this theory. I like this. I don't know if it's a hot take, but I like it. I dig that idea a lot. Jorgen, Valessen. Chad not really having much of a role as the story went on makes sense from both a narrative perspective and in terms of power. Rukia feels more natural in the role of Ichigo's best/most important friend, Orihime is the healer/love interest, and Uryu and Renji both fit the role of the rival turned ally, while having better reasons to remain in the story due to their connections to other characters and their place in the lore. I don't disagree with any of that. I think you kind of are spot on with their roles and their functions as far as the orbiting Ichigo and as far as connections, although I'll disagree with you here on that point, but we'll see what the rest of your comment says. Plus, in terms of powers and fighting style, Chad is a physical brawler in a series where we already have a main character that has a pretty straightforward fighting style, and other characters that fit both the brute force archetype, Kenny, and a more popular hand-to-hand fighter, Yoruichi. And as the series began to have more and more focus on conceptual and creative abilities, and the fights reflecting that, besides, as we saw in the Fullbringer arc, unless you have a really hacks ability like Cousin Shu, most Fullbringers will just not have the strength to be able to keep up with the strong members of the other races. I don't disagree broadly with your point that a lot of other people seem to fulfill his role. I think you thought that out really well, that there's another strong guy with Kenny, a hand-to-hand fighter Yoruichi, but that's very different. But also Ichigo is a bit of a brawler himself. I don't think you're entirely wrong about that. I would just argue that You're right that it seems like a lot of characters have more of connections to other characters. Like Renji and Rukia have connections to Soul Society, and Uryu has his connections to the Quincy's. So like they fulfill those purposes. I would argue though that Chad, in a similar way, had the connection to Execution and the Fullbringers. It just wasn't explored enough. That he had been with those people for like a year or whatever. Um, that there was an opportunity to make Chad a very integral part of that story and give him more of a role, especially in that arc. And it just didn't happen. Um, I think that was a very natural place for Chad to be more of a character and get more of a highlight. I mean, it's about the Fullbringers, and we found out he's a Fullbringer. He should have had, if there was any place for him to shine, it should have been the Fullbringer Lost Agent arc. And I think, yes, his place in the group can be fulfilled by other people, but in that arc, where Rukia wasn't around, where Renji wasn't around, where Uryu was in the hospital 75-80% of the time, there absolutely should have been a place for Chad. And maybe you could argue, well, if Chad was there, then Ginjo wouldn't have been able to get so close to Ichigo, and Ginjo is also a brawler. I'm coming up with my own arguments against myself. But Chad was a character we knew, who we loved, who deserved more, and that was a great opportunity to do that. And if Ginjo was going to turn out to be a villain anyway, then I think it would have been nice to have one of the people there. Because all the other Fullbringers turn out to be not the nicest of people either. Ruruka, even her, was in on the whole thing at first. I would argue it would have been good to have one member of Execution have Ichigo's back. And who better than the person that had Ichigo's back since before the series even started, but Chad. I think that was the time. I don't disagree broadly, except the Lost Agent arc is right there. He would be fulfilling a lot of those roles because of the absences of those other characters. He's someone that's known Ichigo a long time, longer than a lot of these other characters, longer than Uryu, longer than Renji, longer than why am I forgetting words? Rukia. I would have loved to have seen him have a bigger role then. I think that was a time where he should have, and it feels weird that he didn't, even still. But I mean, it's kind of tough because a lot of Ichigo's human friends don't really get anything, and I think Tatsuki could have had so much potential, just never happened. It didn't shake out that way. But Chad was right there all the time. He was always lingering on the outskirts, and it was kind of a reminder of like he should have more. And the Fullbringer arc, the Lost Agent arc, whatever you want to call it, that's when Chad should have been more of a character, and I think he was integral to the lore of the Fullbringers, the lore of that group. You know, you could have, and then he ended up just being kind of brainwashed along with everyone else, and I just think you could have done more. You could have had him have more of a role. I think you have a lot of good points. I think Chad deserved more in the Lost Agent arc. Howling Meteor says, have As not kill Byakuya to pass the torch to Rukia by having her be captain of Squad 6 and then the head of the Kuchiki family. That definitely would have been more impactful. I think you know how I feel about this. I went into it many times. I still kind of feel that way. I still think Byakuya should have died. And yeah, well, I don't know, Rukia becoming head of the squad? Maybe. But Renji was there too. He could have been good for him. Her becoming the head of the Kuchiki family. Is that how it would work? She wasn't even really... Yeah. She was adopted into it. I don't know enough about the succession, but that could have been interesting. Would have given... I've talked about it before. His death would have opened up the doors for a lot of dramatic, powerful moments, but I know a lot of people disagree with that, which is why it's a hot take, I suppose. But I agree. I agree. I think Asnat should have killed Byakuya. I still am on that hill. I'm sorry, Byakuya fans. Alright, last one here. Castiel01X. Yoruichi isn't a good character. Jeez, right out the gate. Sure, she actively takes a role in the earlier parts of the series, but role doesn't equate to good character work. Furthermore, her being a foil to Soy Phone and Urahara in Soul Society arc and Turn Back the Pendulum arc, respectively, only serves to embolden her opposite dynamic and not her herself. Oof. So she's not a good character, but you're saying conceptually she's fine and she has a role, but that doesn't equate to good character. I mean, I don't disagree that they don't do that Kubo doesn't spend that much time developing her throughout the series, because there's a lot of times I've talked about it. I didn't really talk about her much during my first time reading series. Not that I didn't want to, it's that there wasn't really anything that really like hit me, on like an emotional level, or seeing her grow. She was kind of just like a nice this the whole time, and I liked her and she was cool. I think she's a good character. I don't think she has like a big arc or anything really, and people can argue with me. I know I got a lot of hate comments about, so some of my friends were sending me some of the comments from the Yoruichi video I did recently, for the Thousand Year Blood War, and yeah, I mean, I don't like the way that shook out really for her specifically. It's tough. I wouldn't go so far to say she's not a good character. I like the character she is. I do think she's on a very flat arc though. Like she doesn't really go through that much. There was one comment that said that her having that done to her by Urahara made her the most free she's ever been, which, like, that's an interesting perspective. Since she didn't choose to be that way, it doesn't really feel that free to me, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna say I disagree. I think she's a good character, but I do think you're right that, a lot of the times the development that showed things was for the benefit of others. Like Soy Phone had kind of her arc in the Soul Society arc, and Urahara, people brought up that him doing that to Yoruichi at the end there said a lot about him, and I don't disagree. I think it said that he was willing to do that to his like oldest, closest friend. That says a lot about him and what he's capable of and what he prioritizes. But what did that say about her? So I don't disagree. I think it said much more about, it was for the benefit of Urahara's character than it was for Yoruichi's. I don't disagree about that. I just wouldn't go so far as to say she isn't a good character. I like her character. I think she's cool. I think she's a good presence. I loved when she was the cat. Yeah. I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit there. But yeah, that'll do it for the hot takes for now. Like I said, I'll post when I want some more hot takes from you guys here on YouTube, and I'll be posting on Patreon for the patrons. The patron ones will be prioritized and guaranteed to be answered at some point in these videos. I still have more from the last time I posted over there. Yeah, maybe even comment below this video, actually. Comment below this video your hot takes, and I'll have my friend go through and pick some out that we'll read at some point down the line as well. So, yeah, thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate you patrons for sending the hot takes this time. A lot of interesting ones, a lot of food for thought. I love hearing the different perspectives. That's the big thing with me right now, is it's interesting to hear what people are thinking. So, yeah, all right, that'll do it. Take care.